What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So with the new name, I'm going to try a new mic placement since a lot of you complain about the previous mic placement being a little phallic in its positioning, which I understand, but it was just a really good place for the mic. Anyway, I'm going to try this new place. You have to let me know if the mic still sounds as good as it did before to you guys. But if this works out, then I will continue to do this. It's just slightly out of frame of camera here, so hopefully it doesn't distract anyone anymore, as long as the sound is okay for you guys. So I also, just real quick before I get into the news, want to thank you guys for your support on the name change here to Matt Maran Motoring. I think that most of you seem to like it and understand why I made the change, and so hopefully it'll just continue to open new doors and provide a lot more great opportunities here for the channel. So lots of exciting news to get to, so I'll just get right to it here. The first, though, is not so exciting, and that's something we've known for a while, and that is that the Dodge Viper is officially getting killed off. The assembly plant that makes the Viper is going to close on August 31st, and then that's it. So again, we knew this was kind of coming. They were even making limited edition Vipers, saying how they're only going to make a few more and then that's it. And so now it's official that the Viper will be dead by August 31st. So really sad news there. Maybe it'll make a return here in a few years, or maybe not, who knows. But sad to see the Viper go. It's just a legendary car, and I've always really thought they were awesome. Another vehicle that also got killed off, before I go into the exciting new cars, is another car that got killed off, was the Volkswagen Touareg for the United States. The rest of the world will still have the Touareg. It's just us here in the States where it's getting killed off, and that's primarily because we get a slightly larger Tiguan here in the States. For this new Tiguan, it's going to be, we're going to have a 3-row optional Tiguan, and so that, combined with the Atlas, which is massive, should bridge the gap between those two models to fill in the Touareg, which was kind of a little bit bigger than a Tiguan in the past, but a little smaller than the Atlas, I think. But it just doesn't make sense here, I guess. And Volkswagen is saying they're going to have a new, smaller crossover to fill the Tiguan's shoes. Since the Tiguan's getting bigger now, they need something to, fill in to be smaller. And so that's how they're kind of planning everything out with Volkswagen. So that's that. But yeah, so it's killed off. The rest of the world's still going to get it. And I think there's going to be a new version for everyone else, but no more here for us. But it was a very slow seller, so not a huge surprise there. But some exciting SUV news here is Jaguar just revealed the 2018 Jaguar E-Pace. And as you can see, it looks very much like an F-Type. They had a lot of inspiration from the F-Type. They said that they wanted to give it a different look than the F-Pace. They said they could have just done a shrunken down F-Pace and called it a day, and that probably would have been fine since that's what every other car company does. But Jag, being the awesome car company they are, they always make what I view to be the right decision, or the enthusiast decision, and I love that they went with a different direction here. They gave it a more youthful appearance, making it look like a sports car, and I think that it helps to differentiate it instead of having vehicles being small, medium, and large in size like all the Germans do. I think this is so refreshing, and I just love the way that it looks. Also, the F-Type is like my dream car, so I may be biased in that assessment, but I think that, they could have really screwed it up. And Ian Callum is one of the best designers out there currently who does all the Jag designs. And for him to translate the F-Type design into this E-Pace, SUV and not screw it up is really something to be impressed by as well. This looks so good in its translation here to an SUV, and I absolutely love the way that it looks. So some actual details here about it. The underpinnings are based on the Range Rover Evoque and Discovery Sport. So it will be a proper SUV. This isn't just a high-riding car or anything like that. It's about 13 inches shorter than an F-Pace. They said that they've made a lot of chassis changes to make sure the chassis is... it feels like a Jag and not like a Land Rover. There's a completely new multi-link suspension, and the steering rack is even mounted directly to the unibody for better responsiveness, they say. So it's sounding like it may be a little bit of a stiffer ride and things like that, but hopefully we'll still be comfortable enough, to be a daily driver, of course, since this is, an SUV that people will be driving every day. As far as the engines go for this thing, that's the only little disappointment. At launch, at least, there's going to be other engines for the rest of the world. I know there'll be a front-wheel drive version, and there'll be some diesels and whatnot, but here in the States, all the models we get will all be all-wheel drive. They're all going to have a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder Ingenium engine in base trim, and so there's like base S and SE, those get a 246 horsepower version of this motor that has 269 pound-feet of torque. And then there's going to be an R Dynamic model, which is like the top of the line model, and that's going to have 296 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. That's the same motor that you get now in the new base model F-Type with the new four-cylinder they introduced in that same motor there. But still a four-cylinder, which I'm not crazy about. I was hoping it would have the same great V6 sound as the F-Type, and maybe a V6 will come down the road. Maybe they'll find a way to fit it in. But since this is based on the Evoque and that never had any larger engines than a four-cylinder, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do it. But Jag is awesome, and they've blown us away in the past, so who knows? Maybe they'll put some awesome motor in the E-Pace here as well. But still, even with that, these motors, they're not slow. The base engine still does 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds. Which is enough to keep up with a BRZ. The R Dynamic does it in 5.9 seconds there with that additional horsepower. So again, nothing mind-blowing, but still very respectable performance for a little SUV. They're all gonna have the ZF 9-speed automatic transmission, and on the inside there too, they're really nice. They get the same shifter as an F-Type there. It comes standard with that 10-inch touchscreen infotainment system, which is really great. I loved using that infotainment system in the F-Pace that I did a little quick drive video of last fall, and that's a really great head unit. Although it doesn't have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's the only thing about it, but I think they're going to be adding that relatively soon, but that hasn't been announced officially yet. Anyway, but otherwise the interior is really great. The R Dynamic, it's sportier seats with more bolstering, and you get the digital gauge cluster as an option. There's a new heads-up display you can add on, and all kinds of other luxury features as well. And these things are pretty competitively priced. Now, they're a little more expensive than their competitors. They're saying this should compete with the Audi Q3, BMW X1, and the Mercedes GLA, but those are all a little smaller, especially the GLA Mercedes is essentially a lifted, A-class hatchback. So I think this is a lot more space than some of those, so that kind of warrants its larger price tag. Starting price is going to be $38,600. Now, a fully loaded R Dynamic HSE model will go for about $53,100. So, it's only a few $1,000s cheaper than an F-Pace, so maybe value-wise, you'd be better off just jumping up to the bigger model. But for those that don't want a huge SUV, because the F-Pace is fairly large. It's a beautiful and awesome SUV on its own, but it is a good bit bigger, and so this being 13 inches shorter should make it feel a lot sportier, I think, in that way as well. But anyway, these are going to be showing up in Jag dealers in early 2018, they say. And at the launch also, for some reason when they were doing the launch, they thought it'd be cool to do a new Guinness Book World Record. It is kind of cool, kind of cheesy at the same time, but they set the Guinness World Record for furthest barrel roll in a production vehicle of 50 feet, which is, really impressive that they figured out how to do that, and it's a very cool thing, but really just kind of off-the-wall bonkers. But hey, whatever. It sounds cool, and I'm just excited for the E-Pace here. I think it's a very awesome vehicle, and who knows, maybe it could be a potential Matt Moran motoring family vehicle here in a few years whenever the time comes. I really like that thing a lot. So anyway, cool to see that. Another vehicle that debuted this past week was the 2018 Audi A8. And so as you can see here, it's very conservatively styled, but it's the same good looks you would expect from a full-size Audi, and they're not going to take any crazy design risks with a vehicle that's typically sold to an older clientele. And so anyway, there's going to be the standard A8 and the A8L again, which is the longer version that's 5.1 inches longer to be exact. So other things here, aside from the looks, the interior is very interesting, and that's really where it, I think, takes the biggest risk, and that is that it's almost entirely touchscreen for the controls. There's only a couple little controls, I think a volume knob, engine start button, and maybe one or two other buttons. Everything else is touchscreen. There's a 10.1-inch main interface there that has haptic feedback, which they are really proud about. How you can feel the press of a virtual button there with the touchscreen. But Cadillacs have had that for years now, so nothing revolutionary there in my mind. But it is cool because I think that will help with feedback there with using these touchscreens. The biggest deal, though, to me is this is the first Audi, new Audi at least, to not have one of these MMI controller wheels. There is no controller, no iDrive type thing. It's just touchscreen. So I think they're finally getting with the times of every other technological, gadget and stuff that we have these days all are touchscreen. Why, BMW and those are clinging on to some kind of controller is just kind of funny. And I'm sure they're going, BMW is also introducing the touchscreen option now for some of their vehicles going forward here for 2018 as well. So they're all kind of, I think, slowly ditching all these controllers, which I'm personally glad to see. But yeah, so that's a really big change as well there, though, with no controller wheel. There's a lot of really cool tech features here about the A8, as you would expect. This is the rolling showcase of what Audi's technology can do currently. And so for the luxury side, one of the cool things about the A8L is it has a relaxation seat. And so it's obviously a larger, more luxurious rear seat there in the A8L. And so in addition to having a back massage, heating and cooling, like all the other typical full-size executive sedans here, it also has foot massage, which I'm pretty sure is a first for a luxury vehicle here. So the foot massage, you put your feet up against the seat back of the seat in front of you, and it'll actually massage your foot. Now, I don't know how that will feel for the front passenger that's sitting in that seat, but very interesting idea there, and we'll have to see how well it works in execution. But a very interesting thing, and again, thinking outside of the box there. Now, Audi's also introducing the new AI system, artificial intelligence, here with the A8, and it seems pretty intelligent. We'll have to see, once again, how well it actually works in the real world. But a few of the different things, there's the Audi AI traffic jam pilot, which kind of advances the typical stop and go autonomy stuff. Not quite as full-fledged as a Tesla system still, but it'll control starting, accelerating, steering, and braking up to 37.3 miles per hour, while the driver can either watch the onboard television or do whatever else they want to do. Some other features of this artificial intelligence that Audi has is that it has a learning ability where it learns the driver's habits, likes, dislikes, and regular routes, and will make recommendations based on that data. So if it knows that you always stop for gas every Friday on your way home from work, it'll probably suggest, hey, you should stop for gas. The price is 3 cents lower, or whatever it is that it ends up doing. But sounds good in theory. We'll see in execution if it's annoying or actually helpful. Other things here, there's going to be an artificial intelligence remote parking pilot and remote garage pilot, which allow the car to park itself, find its own parking spot, and also pull in and out of your garage with the activation of a smartphone app. You just tell it to pull out, and it does. Again, identical to the Tesla systems there. So Audi's just kind of wanting to match them with all that kind of stuff. These new A8s also run a 48-volt electrical system now, which allows to have more electrical capabilities to do things like control the suspension. And apparently the car is constantly scanning the road for potholes, and whenever it sees a rough road, it'll preemptively adjust the suspension and prepare for that pothole or whatever it is, so that the car can basically eliminate it. Not entirely, of course, because you're still making contact, but very, very much minimize the impacts of those bumps and things like that, which is, again, a very cool thing that it can do there. Four-wheel steering is also standard here on the A8s. And as far as engines go, there's going to be 5 different engines in Germany, but obviously we're not going to get any of the diesels, so that cuts our lineup by a good bit. So the first motor that they're going to be available at launch is a 340 horsepower twin-turbo V6, and then there's also going to be a gas V8 engine that you're going to be able to get with 460 horsepower that most likely has turbos as well. That'll come after launch, and then there will also be a W12 model that they're still sticking with that W12 motor, shared with the Bentleys, and that does 585 horsepower. And they're also saying down the road they're going to have an A8L e-tron plug-in hybrid that's going to be arriving sometime with 449 horsepower and 31 miles of electric range, as well as having some very cool inductive wireless charging, so you don't actually have to even plug it in, which is pretty cool. The pricing, now they revealed this for Europe, so the pricing in Europe is around 90,000 euros, but it's usually not a straight translation as far as US pricing. Usually we get things cheaper than the standard exchange rate, so we'll have to wait and see what the pricing is here for the States. They said they'll announce that later, but anyway, cool to see all that. Hyundai this past week announced the i30N, but don't get excited about it just yet because this is only for Europe. So unless you're in Europe, then go on and get excited. But for us here in the States, we are not getting this. We will probably be getting the same mechanicals as this car in a Veloster N, which will hopefully be arriving maybe next year. We've seen a Veloster that looks sportier out, spied running around. We should be getting a revised Veloster, if not an all-new model. It's kind of uncertain what's going on with the Veloster at this point. but we should be getting some form of this vehicle at some point, even if it's not in the same body. Anyway, for those of you in Europe, I will carry on with the details here about the i30N. It's obviously got a more aggressive look here over the standard i30 you guys get. Has red accents, sportier appearance all around. On the inside there, you have a sportier interior that has heavily bolstered seats, a sportier steering wheel with buttons for different driving modes. So as far as the power goes for this thing, it's going to have a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder that does 271 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty impressive. It's a little more horsepower than all the competitors there, although they do match it for torque, so I don't know how much faster this will actually feel, but it should have a little bit of a performance advantage, at least in a straight line. They're going to be available only with a 6-speed manual and only in front-wheel drive. They're all going to get an electronic limited slip differential to help put that power down through those front wheels. They're also all going to have electronically adjustable shocks that have different driving modes, including Eco, Normal, Sport, and Custom. So nice, you can hopefully customize a mode to tailor to exactly what you want as far as steering weight and all that kind of stuff. It's also going to have auto rev match downshifts and a variable exhaust that can go from quiet to loud. I'm not sure if it's going to be on a switch or if it's just flaps that auto open depending on the RPM. But anyway, either way, awesome to see that. Another awesome vehicle that we saw this week was the Aston Martin Valkyrie in a more production-ready trim. They say they still could make a few changes before the actual cars are delivered, but they showed off this car, which now finally has actual headlights and taillights. It also has a larger interior area, so this one actually is a little more livable than the original Valkyrie concept. Other things here that you can see, it's got enclosed wheels there for better aerodynamics, and the interior, they've actually filled it out. So as far as the interior goes, the seats are bolted to the frame there, so you can't move them. So I'm sure they'll have adjustable pedals, much like the Ford GT and La Ferrari, stuff like that. The biggest deal, though, is there are no mirrors on this car. They say this is the first production car that will actually ditch its mirrors, and so you're going to have those two little screens you see in the corners there of the A-pillars, and those will be those will have cameras connected to them to see what's on both sides of you. And that's it. So very, very interesting driving experience, I'm sure, for this Valkyrie. As you can see, very square or rectangular looking steering wheel there, which has its display to show you all your other information you need to know. And just pretty crazy. Other interesting little factoid here is they say the front badge, they didn't want to do a normal badge because that would be too heavy, because they're so obsessed with lightweightness that a badge is too heavy. But they say that a sticker, like what Porsche does on some of their models, is too cheap for an Aston Martin, which is a nice little dig at Porsche. So they said instead they went the high-tech route. This thing has a laser-etched aluminum badge that is much thinner because of that. And it's so thin, in fact, it's thinner than a human hair, this badge. So I don't know how fragile that's going to be, but it is aluminum, so hopefully it's not super fragile. Anyway, just kind of a crazy little factoid there. Otherwise, we don't know anything about when these are still going to be arriving. It's still a little ways off, I think. They're still working on them. We know they're going to be $3 million, and they're all already spoken for, so it doesn't matter anyway. I'm sure the people that have orders in are in the loop, and the rest of us can just sit around and wait for cool videos of them to pop up on YouTube. And, maybe we'll see one depending on where you live, but man, that's going to be one heck of a car, and so cool to see that. For some more mundane news, Ford revealed a couple new packages here for the 2018 Mustang this past week. And a lot of you messaged me about the order guide that leaked out, and all the media outlets mislabeled that as the actual order guide when it wasn't. It was the order guide companion, which only had a few pictures of a few of the available packages you can get in the Mustang. We don't have the actual order guide yet. That's not going to be arriving until Ford releases it. We don't know exactly when. Ford did give us a little more information, which I'll get to in a minute. But anyway, getting back to this pony package, that's the new package that they officially revealed with 3 pictures here for us, and that kind of gives you more of a retro look that they're bringing back from the 50th anniversary package that was available in the 2015 models back in the day. So you get that corral pony emblem grille there, which is actually, I think, looks really good with the 2018 styling. You'll also get the typical tape side stripe you always get It's going to have chrome window surrounds, which the European models all have, but for us here in the States, it's a different thing. And you also get chrome wheels, which look basically like chrome versions of the wheels on the EcoBoost Performance package. By the way, this Pony package only available on the EcoBoost. You cannot get it on a GT, which is kind of interesting because I feel like people that like retro stuff probably like the retro engine, the V8, not the high-tech, new turbo 4-cylinder. But that's what they're doing, supposedly. But yeah, so that's that. Maybe the order guide will reveal some other details of maybe getting that grille on another package or something for the GT. Other things that this companion thing showed are just other pictures of all the same packages that have been available on 2015 to 2017 Mustangs, basically unchanged for the 2018 as far as packaging goes with the black package and things like that. But there is a new package called the Carbon Sport package, which gives you a carbon fiber dash overlays there, which look good if you're into the whole carbon fiber everywhere thing like some people are. And it also gives you a shift knob that's carbon fiber, but that's actually just out of the Ford parts catalog that you could have had for several years now. So nothing crazy there. And it also does include Alcantara inserts on the seats and the doors, which is clearly straight out of like a Shelby GT350, which is cool. So again, those that love the carbon fiber Alcantara thing and don't want to step up to a Shelby can now get it here in the standard Mustangs, which is cool. Always good to give people options. But anyway, the other news that they shared with us, Ford officially shared, is that the pricing and the build site to build your own 2018 Mustang on the Ford site, those will be going live July 25th, and that's when we'll have pricing as well. I don't know, they didn't say anything about horsepower yet. I know no one knows anything about the horsepower numbers still, and it's getting kind of late here because orders are going to be accepted soon. So hopefully we get some horsepower numbers sometime this month, but your guess is as good as mine, honestly, so we'll just have to wait and see when they finally decide to reveal that. And as many of you know, the Goodwood Festival of Speed was last week and had all kinds of awesome supercar stuff. And while Car and Driver was there, they were talking with the McLaren CEO, and he revealed that they're considering all-wheel drive for McLaren models in the future. Just because they say they're reaching the limits of what they can do with a tire and what kind of power a tire can put down, for production, normal street tires at least. And so they're saying that in the distant future, they're considering all-wheel drive, but it would be the type like the NSX currently has, where you have electric motors in the front wheels, and that's what powers those front wheels, and that would give them more control over that than having a standard mechanical all-wheel drive setup. So that's what they would do if they will do something, but again, it's just a theoretical thing when talking with the CEO. He was just kind of saying it off the cuff. So nothing official there, but be interesting to see what they end up doing here in the future. It's a logical step. I mean, look at all the other vehicles that have gone to all-wheel drive recently. So wouldn't blow anyone's minds really, but anyway, interesting to hear that. Something else that's not much of a surprise is Faraday Future, who they've had all kinds of financial issues. They're trying to brag as being this Tesla competitor, but they can't even seem to build a car. So they have just canceled their plans to build their huge Las Vegas factory they were planning on building. They're planning on buying an existing smaller factory instead, and they say, oh, well, this isn't a setback because we already have all the equipment we need to build these cars. We just need to set it up, and then we'll be able to start building them. Easy peasy. And so I kind of really don't believe that, and I'm sure these cars will never see the light of day, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's the latest development there as far as Faraday Future. For some actual news of an electric car that is being built, the Tesla Model 3. The first one just rolled off the assembly line last week, actually on my birthday last week. So awesome that they had the first Model 3 built there, and it was actually supposed to go to a Tesla board member, but that board member gifted it to Elon Musk for his birthday instead, and so Elon Musk got the first one, and this board member is going to get the second one, so not a big sacrifice there, but anyway, cool nonetheless. And Elon just showed two pictures here of what it looks like, and we know from last week I was talking in the weekly update, they reported that they're going to be gradually ramping up production. I think they're making 100 cars in August, and then like 1,000 or 2,500 in September, and little by little they're going to get to 20,000 cars a month by December, and slowly start working away at these pre-orders they have, which I think are over 300,000, so pretty going to take them a while. Other Tesla news, though, is according to Electrek, that's a little bit of a mouthful. Anyway, they reported, and it turned out to be true, that Tesla quietly improved all their performance for all their models over the weekend here. So what they did now, the Model S and the Model X, they say there's new software and hardware improvements. So the hardware improvements mean that you can't retrofit this onto a vehicle from Tesla. You have to actually buy a new Model S or Model X in order to get these improvements. But they're big improvements that any other car company would be bragging about, and for some reason Tesla's just quietly doing it, probably because they don't want to upset current owners. But here's the big changes. So the Model S75, the base Model S, that's actually going to get the biggest improvement, with its 0 to 60 time going from 5.5 seconds to 4.3 seconds. And then the 75D, which is the all-wheel drive version, that goes from 5.2 seconds to 4.2. Now, as far as the Model S100D, that was already one of the fastest ones anyway, so that isn't as much of an improvement. That goes from 4.2 seconds to 4.1. Obviously, the P100D is the one that's like 2.8 seconds or whatever craziness that is. Then as far as the Model X, that also gets some improvements. So that 75D model goes from 6 seconds 0 to 60 to 4.9 seconds. So more than a second less is really impressive. The 100D goes from 5.2 seconds to 4.7 seconds as well. So again, really big improvements there, and so even the base Model S now isn't slow. I mean, that'll still keep up with a lot of really respectable sports cars. And there's a few new cars that were spied this past week. The first is the 2020 Ford Focus, or 2019, depending on who you ask. Ford Focus sedan was spied testing, and it's under development here. It looks a little bit bigger. It looks, especially in the back end there, it looks a little longer. You can see there's some LED lighting elements up front there. The back end, the rear lights are definitely temporary, so nothing finished there. So we do know, though, that production is moving from Michigan to China. I reported on that a couple of weeks ago here, and so it's going to have a hiatus of, I think, about 9 months to a year before they start building them in China and end production in Michigan. So it's looking like they may actually miss a model year of Focus production. So that's why I'm saying it could be 2020. It could still just be a late 2019. Who knows? But there's also a rumor that they're going to get rid of the naturally aspirated engine here for the Focus, and so you're only going to have a choice of either the 3-cylinder or 4-cylinder or EcoBoost motors, which wouldn't be much of a surprise at all, from Ford. So I would expect to see that, honestly. Another vehicle that was spied here was the 2018 Audi S7, and so it's all new. So you can see a good amount of changes here with thinner headlights, taillights, a little bit sleeker appearance. Front end looks similar to the new A8 we just saw here this week, and looks good. But as far as other changes, we don't really know too much yet. We do know, since this is the S model, it's got the more aggressive front bumper there over stuff like the new A8s, and so it does look a good bit sportier there. But as far as the motor for the S7 here, they're saying that it's probably going to have the same 2.9 liter twin turbo V6 from the Panamera 4S. But probably have more than that car's 430 horsepower. So maybe nice around 450 horsepower, something like that. Who knows? But anyway, that car, they're saying, could be revealed at the Frankfurt Motor Show in September, or it could be later at the LA Auto Show or Detroit even in January. But anyway, cool to see that. Another vehicle that was spied from the Volkswagen group here was the Bentley Bentayga plug-in hybrid. And so the only reason why we know this is a plug-in hybrid is because there's an extra flap there for a plug-in. Also, the spy photographer looked up the registration for this vehicle, and it listed that, as well as listing that it's running a 3-liter engine. So there's a debate as to whether it would be a plug-in hybrid V8 or V6, but it sounds like, being it's a 3-liter motor, it's probably the V6. So that, combined with an electric battery, should help, with decent power still to propel this very heavy SUV. They say the electric range should be around 30 miles, and considering it's basically uncamouflaged and looks basically done, I'm sure we'll probably see it well before the end of this year. So interesting to see that. And the last couple of stories here is, first off, a very interesting story from the British car magazine called Car, and they claimed they have an inside source at Ferrari that's saying that Ferrari's working on a crossover, and that's codenamed the F16X. Now, supposedly, the current CEO of Ferrari said that he would never do an SUV, and that you would have to kill him before an SUV was built by Ferrari. But I think they said he steps down as CEO before this car is supposed to debut, which is in 2021. So maybe that's they're like, okay, well, the new guy that's running the program will be fine with it, and so that's why they're developing it. But they probably want to have a competitor to the Lamborghini Urus SUV that's coming out here at some point in time. They say it's going to supposedly be built alongside the next-gen GTC4 Lusso, and they're also saying that it's going to have some interesting design elements, including, I mean, it's going to have an aluminum frame, which is typical of all the other Ferraris, but it's going to have rear doors that are suicide in their opening, suicide doors, and no B-pillar, so you're going to have a completely open interior there, you know, whenever you open up those 4 doors, which will be interesting to see how well the structural rigidity is and stuff for a vehicle like that. It's obviously going to have all-wheel drive. Now they're saying that it's going to have V8 power, but it could have a possible hybrid option. I'm sure that V8 is going to be the turbo one that you see in the GTC4 Lusso T most likely. And they're saying whenever these do arrive, sometime around 2021, they should probably be over $300,000. But a vehicle like this, if you have to ask about the price, you probably can't afford it. So it's just the way it goes. Some other bonkers news that no one was expecting was Autocar has reported that with Volvo last week announcing how every new vehicle they're introducing from 2019 and on will be electrified. They'll all be electrified in some way. There's not going to be any non-electric Volvos. They'll have, they'll either be a hybrid or fully electric. It doesn't mean they'll all be fully electric, but the interesting thing was they also committed to doing 2 new Polestar models, and it sounds like the first of those Polestar models is going to be a coupe that, according to Autocar, is going to have 600 horsepower, and it's going to be electrified, of course, like I said, because of that commitment they made, and it's going to be revealed at the Frankfurt Auto Show in September, so we'll be seeing it pretty soon, and it'll most likely be a concept car. I don't think they have something like this ready to go. We haven't seen anything spied or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, we know in the past they've made very beautiful coupe concepts like the one you see here in the picture. So we'll have to see, if this one actually, lives up to that and actually gets built and produced. Because it's a shame because the last one was so gorgeous looking, but they never ever made it. It was just kind of a design study to show, some of those new design elements like those headlights and whatnot. Anyway, so they're saying it will supposedly be based on the S60 platform whenever they do make this thing. So I guess they're planning on producing it, but again, we'll just have to wait and see what kind of how they get to 600 horsepower, whether it's fully electric or some kind of interesting hybrid setup. But anyway, interesting to see that. And the last bit of news this week is a little bit disappointing, but just glad that it's still around, and that is Nissan has announced there will be a 2018 370Z, and we already knew that because they announced this Heritage Edition a few months back, but now they're giving us a little more information on that Heritage package in all 2018 370Zs. So they say that they're all going to have the same price as last year, so even though you're getting some little improvements, the price isn't going up. So it starts without destinations. Pricing is still like right under $30,000, which is a very good price point for still having 335-ish horsepower, I think, and 350 with the Nismo version. But anyway, they say that all the new 370Zs they feature a new motorsports-inspired Exetti high-performance clutch, but it has a light pedal effort. They worked with them, and so they say it should enhance driving responsiveness. They also, other changes outside of that mechanical change are darker headlights and taillights, new wheel designs, a new shade of red, and then, like I said, that Heritage Edition, which gives you the yellow paint with the black stripes, or black paint with silver stripes. They also said that the Nismo models also get new Dunlop tires, similar to the ones on the GTR, and those have less rolling resistance, less road noise, and the same current handling performance. So they're not even saying that they improve handling, it's just quieter, okay? So that's it as far as the improvements for the 370Z. Everything else is the same, including the power output, which has been the same really since they came out originally. And we have no rumors still of a replacement. Every once in a while, someone will say, oh yeah, they're just going to throw the new Q60 Red Sport motor in it, give it 400 horsepower. And there's been rumors of some kind of hybrid. But yeah, I wish I had better news to deliver about the 370Z. Just there's no really rumors or anything. I'm hoping they are working on something quietly behind the scenes and they'll surprise us here. But for now, at least they're still offering it with a manual and they're still continuing on to build them for those few people that do want them. But anyway, interesting to hear that. And that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know what you think about everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Take care.